My mom made me stand guard outside empty classrooms, while she seduced my brother's teachers and blackmailed them into changing his grades. Slipping white powder into his orange juice each morning, like it was harmless vitamins. I watched her twist my arm and whispered that if I spoke up, I'd be ripped from our trailer and thrown into foster care. I believed her. But the morning Brad collapsed, foam at his lips and eyes rolling back, everything shattered. The lie of her sacrifice, the fear that kept me silent, and the desperate truth. I was the only one left to tell. My mom made me stand guard while she slept with my brother's teachers to change his grades. When I saw her stirring white powder into his orange juice every morning, she twisted my arm and said, "You want him to fail? You want us to stay poor forever?" My mom worked 80 hours a week, and we were still living inside a trailer, home in the middle of a junkyard. So when my older brother Brad went into sophomore year, he didn't just turn 15, he turned into mom's way out. I still remember the way she used to look at his straight A's with tears in her eyes. "You're going to be a doctor. You're getting us out of here. Promise me." She'd always say at first. Mom's dedication seemed normal. During junior year, she quit her night job and transformed our living room into study central. For Brad's study groups, she'd make what we called fancy ramen, Marian noodles with green onions and sesame seeds. We all thought she was amazing. I never would have imagined what was really going on behind closed doors. It started when my phone ran out of battery. Mom agreed to let me use hers for homework when, really, I just wanted to play Subway Surfers. But as soon as I unlocked it, my stomach dropped. There in her camera roll was a folder labeled grades, except it wasn't filled with report cards. Subfolder 8 was flooded with photos of my mom posing in ways that made me sick, photos no mother should be sending to anyone. They were organized into subfolders with names like Mr. Timothy married and Mr. J. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. Because that's when I read her texts. Her method was clear. Lure the teachers in with her photos, and once their fun was over, blackmail them to have Brad's grades changed. My hands shook so hard, the phone slipped from my grasp. As I bent to pick it up, I heard Mom's footsteps behind me. "If you tell anyone, they'll take you away. And foster care is worse than anything you can imagine." The next morning, she dragged me to school early. When I asked why, she just replied, "Now that you know, you're going to help." I had no idea what she meant until we entered an empty classroom where she'd booked a parent conference. My role was simple: stand guard outside and make sure no one came in, while she gave Brad's teacher a little something. Sometimes, I heard muffled voices or furniture shifting, and I squeezed my eyes shut so hard I saw stars. Once, Mr. Jim rushed out with his shirt untucked. Mom followed, adjusting her skirt and lipstick with a satisfied smile that made me want to throw up. But apparently, this wasn't enough for her. A week later, she came home with master passwords and administrative access to change grades directly in the system. Her hands shook with excitement as if she'd won the lottery. I had no idea where she got it, but whenever I dared to ask, she'd say, "Your brother works so hard. I'm just helping to format things properly." I watched her research college application strategies until 3 in the morning, fueled by instant coffee and whatever pills she'd bought from the sleazy guy at the gas station. The next morning, my hands trembled as I watched her stir white powder into Brad's orange juice. "Vitamins," she'd tell him, "they'll help you focus." I opened my mouth to warn him, but just before I could speak, Mom turned to me and mouthed, "Foster care." So I sat there and watched as my brother drank poison. Brad started getting headaches and his hands shook during dinner, but as his test scores climbed, so did Mom's doses. I tried watering down his juice once when she wasn't looking, but she caught me and twisted my arms so hard I ended up bruised. "You want him to fail? You want us to stay poor forever?" she hissed. She measured out different amounts depending on the day. More for practice tests, the most for the real exams. I knew she was playing with fire, but I never imagined how badly we'd get burned until the morning of his SAT. I woke to Mom screaming Brad's name. I ran to his room and found him unconscious on the floor. Foam at the corners of his mouth, lips blue, chest barely moving. Mom stood frozen, holding an empty pill bottle with powder residue. "Mom, what the F? Call 911, I screamed, but she kept repeating, "He needs to take the test. We need this score." I grabbed her phone and dialed while she tried to wrestle away. "Please help. My brother overdosed and he's not breathing," I blurted into the receiver. The operator stayed calm and talked me through checking his pulse, as Mom collapsed beside him, sobbing. We came so close. I ruined everything. Paramedics arrived and started working on Brad. Mom tried to hide the bottles, but I'd already shown them to the EMT. At the hospital, Brad flatlined twice and was pronounced dead at 4:38 p.m. The official cause: heart failure from a DRG overdose. I said nothing after years of wishing someone would put Mom in her place. I never knew the person would be me. Police arrived minutes later. 2 detectives entered our trailer while Mom rocked back and forth in the corner. I wrapped myself in Brad's hoodie, the one he wore to every study session. It still smelled like him. The detective questioning me had kind eyes. She asked what happened, but every time I tried to speak, sobs took over. Mom screamed about how they'd take me away, and how I'd ruined everything. Officers had to separate. An hour later, a child services worker arrived. She was an older woman with gray hair in a bun and a worn leather bag. When she told me I needed to go with her, I begged for 5 minutes to grab my sketchbook. She agreed and followed me. Walking through the trailer felt surreal. Brad's half-empty orange juice glass still sat on the counter. I grabbed my noticed Mom's old tablet charging on her dresser. The screen was unlocked. On autopilot, I opened her cloud storage. Every sick folder appeared, just as I'd seen on her phone. My hands shook as I screenshot each one. The worker called from the living room that we needed to leave. I slipped the tablet into my backpack. Outside, I handed it to a detective, explaining about the backups. She pulled it into an evidence bag. The emergency foster home reeked of cigarettes and cat litter. My foster parents, Bill and Sharon, barely looked up when I arrived. Sharon showed me to a small bedroom with healing-patterned wallpaper and a creaky twin bed. Through the walls I heard her tell Bill it was another substance case. She didn't know I could hear. Sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Brad's blue lips, the foam at his mouth, his barely moving chest. When morning came, Sharon poured orange juice for breakfast. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. 3 days later, the detective called. Mom refused to cooperate unless she saw me. The detective offered me the choice. Part of me never wanted to see her again, but another part needed to make her know I knew everything. The county jail's visiting room had thick glass and phones on each side. Mom looked small in her orange jumpsuit, dark circles under her eyes. She pressed her hands to the glass and started crying, begging me to say I lied, that she was a good mother, that Brad's death was an accident. The words built up inside me, like pressure in a shaken soda bottle. Finally, I couldn't hold them. You called him. Her fist slammed the glass, and a guard moved closer. Her eyes flicked between rage and tears. Then, as if flipping a switch, her expression softened. They'll split us up forever. You'll age out alone in foster care. Brad wouldn't want that. He'd want us together. I dropped the phone and ran into the parking lot. My own phone, Buzdig, Brad's best friend. His mom says I'm confused, that I didn't do it right. Visank. Jake's mom had been in Brad's study group. If Mom already spun her story, who would believe me? I had 3 missed calls from other study group parents. 2 days later, the foster placement coordinator arrived. My Aunt Helen from 2 towns over wanted temporary custody. Family placement was preferred. Aunt Helen's house felt like a shrine. Photos of Mom and Brad everywhere, science fairs, awards ceremonies, none of me. Helen spent an hour rearranging Brad's memorial items on the mantel, muttering, Mom pushed too hard. 2 weeks crawled by before I started at the new school. The guidance counselor met me privately, voice dripping with sympathy. She knew my story, and said I could take all the time I needed. Walking the hallways, I caught whispers. Everyone already knew. They wanted nothing to do with me. That evening, Helen mentioned Mom's commissary account. She's still my sister, Helen said. Still your mother, she added, when I refused to ask her for supplies. Her face hardened. Jake's mom had started a Facebook page, Support for Linda, described a tragic accident and a grieving mother. Hundreds shared it, and donations poured in for Mom's legal fund. The detective called with an update. Mom's lawyer claimed her confession was coerced, that she was in shock. They needed my testimony for a grand jury. Mom had a hired attorney. I'd have a public defender. My Instagram filled with messages supportive, accusing. Her mom loved Brad. Why would she hurt him? One afternoon, I overheard Helen on the phone. Maybe she was confused. Helen said, trauma affects memory. That girl's always dramatic.